We will not copyright or trademark that. We do not have the rights to this at all. Please do not sue us. Thank you.
Welcome to These Unprecedented Gays, featuring Joe Granelli and Paul Smith. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, and review wherever you stream your podcasts. Check us out on Instagram at tugayspod and email us at tugayspod@yahoo.com. We hope you enjoy. Hey, all you tuggers and tuggets, this is Paul.
And this is Joe.
And we're These Unprecedented Gays.
We are, aren't we?
Yes, we are. And I'm just going to get right into it. Like, we have a special guest in the studio with us this week. We have Veronica Holyfield back with us. If you all remember her, she was visiting from Denver, and last October or so when we had her on here, and she's the one who followed her passion and started doing photography for concerts and stuff. So, hey, Veronica.
Hi.
I wanted to introduce you so you can participate in Mouth to Mouth. Mouth to Mouth resuscitation. The things that are giving us life right now, what we're obsessed with.
I love that intro. Like,
mouth.
Because he like mouths
mouth.
It. You should do it. Like, we should ASMR it. Like,
mouth to mouth.
You have to get closer. Oh, your like tongue goes out too. I bet like if you had a lot of saliva, you could like hear it. And it's like,
Bleh.
I need you to like, I don't have nails, but like, acrylic sounds.
How's that again? You sound like my mom when she's trying to tell me to go grab something. Go grab that.
No, stop it.
Yeah, that's exactly what she does. So, this segment, Veronica, is where we talk about things that we're obsessed with for the week. It could be food, it could be a movie, it could be a show, it could be anything you want. So you want to start?
Yes. Well, so lately I am obsessed with like Greek pitas. So like,
Is that a euphemism?
What?
Is that a euphemism? That code?
Isn't a euphemism like a this ain't getting the baby no shoes sort of thing, or like twice over the pony or something?
I don't think I think that's an analogy.
Aphorisms. What's a euphemism then?
It's you're trying to say something, but it means something
like a double
else.
entendre.
Yes.
Trying to Google that.
A mild or indirect word or expression substituted for one considered to be too harsh or blunt or maybe too sexual.
I don't like. Is this the Merriam-Webster
unpleasant
definition?
I guess so. Yeah, there's an Urban Dictionary. So I'm gonna guess it's not a euphemism. You actually
no. I legit because like I've been like really bad at buying groceries lately, and I'll just end up getting pizza at Gelati e Piccati.
Right.
Spoop boop. Sponsor us. I don't know. They don't have enough money to sponsor us.
We don't need that much though. Just give us free pizza. We'll talk to you about it.
So okay, hold on. I'm a pin in it, but like with Gelati Piccati, they have new people that work there. They're twins. Also, listeners, if you are in San Diego, there's this place. It's called Gelati e Piccati in North Park, and they have really good pizza. But they have twins that work there now, twin boys. And I wwent there.
When you say boys, like are these like young
they're
men?
anywhere from like 18 to 29.
So they're of age.
Maybe.
Oh, okay.
I would say maybe like 24.
23. Okay.
But I had been going there like every day like whenever I went.
To see the twins?
No, to get pizza. And the guy, like the first day that I was a repeat, the guy was like, "Weren't you here yesterday?" And I was like, "Yes, shut up."
Are you judging me?
I was like, "I am providing you income. You're welcome." So, but anyway, I haven't been grocery shopping. And so the other day I was like, well, like, what can I do that's like cheap? And I tried to do like a pita pizza. Wasn't a good idea. But then I was like, well, I have feta cheese, I have hummus, and then I grilled some chicken, and I was like, oh, this is actually really easy to do. So I'm kind of like obsessed with pita pockets because it's really simple. I didn't have any tomatoes or lettuce, but like,
did you stuff that pocket?
Oh, it's fully stuffed
with your hummus.
Oh yes,
yeah.
I'm like trying to think of some more stuff than a Thanksgiving turkey.
Did you fill it with your baba ganoush?
I do love. I love
that's
a baba
eggplant.
ganoush. I love baba ganoush, like a nice baba ganoush, and a little tahini.
Tahiti's my drag name.
Oh, no, that's tahini.
All right, so
That's what I'm obsessed with, Peta. Greek food in general.
Okay,
Give me shawarma.
so
Is that Greek?
I'm very excited because we're going to
Greece?
Disneyland.
Oh.
No, we're going to Disneyland, and they have the new Avengers Campus. And
Okay.
on Avengers Campus, they have a lot of shawarma carts there for you because that's in the Avengers, because that's where they ended up at the end of the first movie.
What?
Was it having shawarma?
Wait, I saw that. I don't remember that.
Did you watch it all the way through?
The Avengers?
Like a good Marvel fan is supposed
I am
to?
not a good Marvel fan.
Okay. But they end up eating shawarma because it's brought up during the movie, and they decided to go get it afterwards.
I love shawarma. So that's my obsession. What is your obsession?
So I actually have two.
Oh, a double dip, if you will.
Oh, yes, exactly. So the first one is an artist called Rina Sawayama. I want to make sure I got her name right. She is amazing. She does kind of like pop EDM. Like,
Yeah, I love her.
I love her. This picture of her with her hair all the way out, like she's doing the
the Yara Sofia.
The Yara Sofia. It's amazing. But there's like two songs. One is called Lucid, really good, and the other one is called Excess, amazing. And you can find those both on Summer of 21 playlist on Spotify.
Ooh.
If you follow me.
I think I do. Did I follow
so
you?
it'll be on there. The other thing that I'm super obsessed with right now, because I keep trying to tell Andy this is what I want him to get me, is a caftan. I want a caftan.
Okay.
Because so where I live in San Diego, we have
all
a
live
house where our studio is located.
Yes.
In lovely San Diego.
You don't need to type in male caftan. Caftans are unisex. They know no gender, Nick.
I mean, when you put in male caftan, a lot of them kind of make you look like Jesus. Like, I'm like, let's be real. But
It
I
could
want
be Technicolor.
yeah, I want like a nice print, But I also want it to be like something where I'm gonna, on my day off, I can put it on. I can grab my mimosa, grab my little speaker, go sit outside on my porch and watch the world go by.
And judge people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like, I want to be a golden girl. Like, that's where I'm at right now.
On the lanai.
Are you going to get the
Yes.
matching bikini brief bottoms, or what are we doing underneath?
Why am I even wearing any underwear underneath
Okay,
it?
yeah, I
So,
was curious
okay.
about
I want the breeze
underneath
to come through.
situation.
There's a follow-up question to that. Is it a sheer caftan or is it full coverage?
I mean, maybe there's a little sheer moment going on. A sheer moment, not a share moment.
Caftan!
Caftan! Snap out of it!
Because your dick did!
I can see your dick print. Oh!
Oh, Chad Michaels would hate us. So would Cher. Sorry, Cher.
So those are the things I'm obsessed with.
But we need like caftans. That's not something that that's non-negotiable. Like, we need to purchase them somewhere,
Right, because and I keep telling Andy, and Andy's like, "Well, they're really expensive." I'm like, "Then get off of Mr. Turk's and go to another website."
Yeah. So like, I listen to the Ross Matthews podcast, and they have like a
He
special
has his own
Caftcan or Caftco, and it's like by Odeo Shakur or something.
Okay.
And it's a gay business, and I think that it's super cool. But like, they're $100.
That's not bad though, because the one on
How
Mr.
much
Turk's,
Mr. Turk?
MrTurks.com is like $300 something, but you can still sponsor us if you want to.
Mr. Turk, if you want to clothe us, we will gladly do a
Oh
fashion
my god!
show.
If you want to send us some caftans,
I'll
please
take
reach out.
anything, everything.
We will model the entire thing.
Model the house down boots.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I'm obsessed with. So Veronica, what are you
Yeah.
obsessed with?
Well, I was trying to think because I feel like I have a lot of new obsessions. But I would say
You're my obsession.
yeah. But the one that's currently probably like at the top of the list is houseplants. So
Ooh, you're a plant mama.
Yeah. So I think like
come
I'm really
through.
coming into my like lesbian adulthood, and I really want to just create an environment that feels like warm and welcoming. And I'm not gonna have children, so I think like plants are like the closest thing that I'm gonna get to, like taking care of something, raising it, making it grow big and strong, and it's become.
If you're a lesbian, aren't you supposed to have cats?
Well, I'm allergic to cats, so yeah.
What kind of lesbian are you?
But you're not allergic to pussy.
Oh! E for explicit.
You can say pussy, right? Can't you?
Oh, wow. What is this, a Cardi B song? Could you stop?
I mean, I'm okay with it.
WAP. Or is it WAP? WAP.
I guess it depends on where you're from. Like, kind of like pecan. WAP. WAP. So, all right. So, we decided we wanted to have...
Wait, can I interrupt you, though?
No, go ahead.
One thing I'm also obsessed with is Veronica's dress because it's gorgeous.
It kind of has a caftan vibe
to it.
Yes.
It really does, yeah, as we were looking up
she's
there.
gorgeous.
Okay, that's it. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you.
So, I wanted to touch on a subject. It is a little bit heavier. So,
we'll make it light.
Yeah. So, but...
Egg whites.
The last time...
Whisk it up.
I was like, egg whites will make it light. It's a meringue.
Oh my god, Andy made the best lemon meringue tarts not too long ago.
Wait, I feel like, why did I not see these? Did you post them on Instagram?
Yeah, he did.
Did I like it? I usually like them.
I don't know.
I double tapped H2 very quickly.
But like they were delicious and super tart.
Was it like a lemon meringue pie but in a small?
Yes.
Okay.
So anyway, sorry.
We'll keep it light. That's what I said.
So it's something that we wanted to talk about, and I think it's very important because within the gay community, it is a huge issue. And so when she was here last in October, we had her on and she talked about some of the things that she was doing. And we didn't know this at the time, but she was dealing with an addiction problem, an alcohol addiction.
Mm-hmm.
And now she's on her sober journey. And that's what we wanted to talk to about. So welcome, Veronica.
Yeah, thank you
and
so
thank
much.
you for coming on and willing to be open about this and stuff. So, and I know we've talked because we've known each other for years and we've talked about this before, but like how long, because you've been on and off with this journey a few times. So how long have you in total been on this journey?
This time?
and the whole.
Yeah. So my very first 12-step meeting. So I'm a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. And the very first meeting I went to, I was 21 years old. And I'm 35 now. So it's been a 14-year journey off and on. And I mean, it's definitely one of those progressive illnesses that every time I pick up a drink, it gets worse and worse. And so it was 9 months ago almost that I was here recording the podcast. And 5 days after I got home from my trip here, I was in rehab. So it was definitely like the end of a really long, hard, tough journey that I'm happy to be on the healing end of. I don't think that we ever truly recover. I think it's something that you continue to work at and you can live a very happy life in recovery. But I do think that it's something, that like is the beginning of the next part of my life.
This is the beginning. This is the beginning. That's good. Whenever she says that, I'm like, that's what makes me think of that.
This is now. Okay, but I don't know if for new listeners, like you guys met how, Paul and Veronica?
We met actually at MCC, the Metropolitan Community Church. And
what were you doing in church?
Oh, girl.
Were you attending it?
I was attending
it.
Like praise Jesus?
Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't know you
praise that higher power, whether
it's
it be
a very
he, she, or them.
queer affirming church.
No way.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. The pastor is gay and stuff.
Oh. But where? What
here
part
in
of the
San
world?
Diego.
Oh, here in San Diego.
Yeah.
It's over on Mission Bay. And we kind of just started talking, and I think we were both in the chorus.
Yeah, we were all in the choir together, and then you all just took
Okay.
me in, and I felt like family ever since.
And we known each
How long
other.
ago was that?
Oh God,
10 years ago?
Almost
Wow.
10 years, because
Yeah.
it's like when me and Andy got together. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So y'all known for a little bit of
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Almost
And
a
it
decade.
was, right after I came out was when I started attending. And so to find family so early on was, I think, pivotal to my self-acceptance. But
And I find this a very a needed topic to discuss because I feel like this issue is prevalent within the gay community, but I also think it's because of how we came up. You know, a lot of when back in the day, gays could only meet at bars, and alcohol was always around, and that was the whole thing before the invent of the internet and chat rooms and stuff like that. That was how you met people, but also because there was so much stigma to it, shame, that the only way they could actually talk to other gay people was after being, you know, having a couple of drinks
or drugs, alcohol, sex, like shame in general. And it's how do you deal with the shame? And it's you turn to whatever advice you need.
And addiction is a huge problem within the gay community. So I feel like it is something that we need to talk about, and it does still have a stigma even within our own community. And if the more we talk about it, the more we kind of peel that away. And so so you went into rehab back in October, and we're still in the middle of a pandemic back then. So like, what was that like that, not only the decision making, and how did you find one that fit you and your needs? Because we're talking about, like, not only are you dealing with addiction, but you want to make sure that you have somebody who can help you with your specific kind, which is you're lesbian or gay and queer. You're queer, and it's you want them to understand that, because that is going to play into how you're going to be helped.
Absolutely. Well, and alcohol for me for a long time was what I used in order to be okay with myself. And so the idea of being a queer woman without alcohol, like, that was terrifying in and of itself. Even though, you know, I've been out for 10 years, that was still a way that I kind of made sense of how I fit in the world. Like you're talking about, a lot of the queer spaces are centered around bars, and a lot of the events are centered around alcohol. And so it's like, okay, well, if I'm going to leave this substance behind, am I losing my community as well? So I really wanted to make sure that I was finding a place that was not only inclusive, but that really felt like they offered programming that was specific to my needs. Because not only am I losing the substance that brings me peace, but then I'm also losing the people who, you know, I built these relationships around. And so that was kind of the first thing that I did the first thing that I wanted to make sure of was that they could take me as soon as possible, because I knew I needed help. And the longer I had to wait and stew, then the more I was worried I was going to change my mind.
Because they're in a pandemic, so they're not taking as many. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, they were limiting the number of people who could come in. You had to go, whether you were detoxing or not, you had to go into the hospital unit for 48 hours so they could monitor your symptoms. And so it really felt like a prolonged process. So I could find a place that took me within the first 3 days after I called.
And then did your insurance help cover that too, or no?
They did, yeah. Wow. They covered a large part of it.
But this is the kind of stuff that, like, people don't know that they have concerns about, is, you know, whether or not I can get in, and does my insurance help cover it?
Totally.
So did you do inpatient?
I did do inpatient.
30-day inpatient?
Mm-hmm. It wasn't quite 30 days.
Wait, what?
Yeah, she's going to get into this.
This is quite a story. But so I found a place that could take me, and I ask them, like, what kind of programming do you have specifically for LGBTQ people? Because I need a space where I can openly talk about not only my struggle with my addiction, but my struggle in losing my community, and my struggle in my, like, accepting my sexuality, and, you know, all of these things that make me who I am. And if I can't be honest and transparent, then I'm not going to get the full benefits of this program. And if I'm worried about what other people think of me, if I'm worried about, you know, if I say my girlfriend, or if I say my partner or whatever, like, you know, is this going to be a space that feels safe? So they really talked me through what they offered. And I felt confident in the place that I chose. So then insurance, find out, you know, $6,000 out of pocket for a 30-day stay, which is not bad. Yep. You know, and I was like, okay, done. Yeah. Luckily I have a very supportive family. So they were willing to offer, help. And I didn't want to take their help, because I was like, this is a problem that, like, I've done to myself. You know, that's how I looked at it then, is like, this is my problem. I'll go fix it. So they go and drop me off, check me in. And within, you know, after the 48-hour observation, I don't have COVID. So great. Go join the campus. And so I was like, okay, when is the LGBTQ support group? You know, like, I'm ready. Like, let's do this. And they're like, well, you're the only queer person on campus. So we have that group, but there's nobody else there. So they're like, "What?" So
you're the only. Yeah, you are the group.
Only. Well, and that's the thing.
Talk to a mirror.
And that's the thing, is, like, I was the only out queer person.
Yeah.
Like, we don't know, obviously, like, what people are really feeling comfortable sharing. And, we have a lot of bisexual people in the community that, maybe identify as straight just because it's safer. And there were only 9 women in the unit. They had the units separate. So we had the men's unit and the women's unit. And then they said, for anyone who is transgender or non-binary, then they can go to the unit that they feel most comfortable in. So they're very affirming in that way. But when you're the only person navigating this experience, then it's like, well, can't I really process everything that I need to? So they did have one counselor who was gay. And so he would take me on a walk. And we would talk about, what's going on in my life? What kind of struggles am I going home to? What are my concerns? What are like some boundaries that I need to set around that really were specific to my needs? And that was like such a great experience with him. But I only had campus experience for 7 days because then we were facing the wildfires that happened up in the mountains. Oh. So I went to a treatment center that was in Estes Park. And we got evacuated.
Oh my right.
God. I had about 5 days of really great, therapy and group and all that kind of stuff. And then the next thing I know, we're packing up a day's worth of clothing because that's all we have time for, getting in a van and driving down the mountain because it's like mandatory evacuation. So I have the clothes that I'm wearing and a backpack with like a change of clothes. And they're like, we don't know when we're coming back. We don't know if we're coming back. We don't know if there will be a campus to come back to.
Right.
But we have a responsibility to make sure that you're safe, and we will do our best to maintain programming whenever we get wherever we're going. So we ended up at a hotel in Greeley. And the interesting thing is they had a 9-person van and there were 9 women. So they're like, who feels safe enough to drive? Who can get you to Greeley? So they give the keys to one of the women that's in the group. We're all in the van driving down the, we're in the middle of this like traumatic experience. And there's like women in the group, like there's a liquor store, pull over. And there's a,
because
on
like
the way.
This is a triggering.
Oh,
because
absolutely.
There's no one who's chaperoning.
And there's no
you.
chaperone. It's just a bunch of drunks trying to get to the next place.
Oh my God.
So luckily, as a group, we supported each other through that. And like, the conversation and the camaraderie, it really created this like bonding experience. So we get to the hotel in Greeley. And we walk in and there's a bar.
Oh, no.
That's the first thing you see when you walk into a hotel, right? Is there's the restaurant with the bar. And it's like, okay, just don't look. Well, then they had no way of taking care of us. They didn't know what to do. So they just had us eat dinner in the restaurant at the bar.
Right. Were the other people there at this point?
Yeah. So like all the men had arrived. So there was like 50 of us there. And they're like, here's a hotel room key. You're sharing it, with another person. Don't drink anything while you're here. And if you want to check out, like, you're welcome to. People can come get you, like, you're not required to stay. But we didn't have anybody leave because it was like this experience that we had gone through. And it's like, this is kind of, being thrown into the deep end. And like, can I sink or swim? Because I have so many options to drink right now. Yeah. And like, I have no tools, right? Like I have not gone through the process. So luckily, through that was kind of crazy. We were at the hotel for a week and a half with 2 pairs of clothing.
Oh my God.
So then we took, trips to the laundromat. They did the best that they could. They brought the counselors to where we were. We had our individual sessions. We had our group sessions. Jesus. And, it was kind of one of those things that I was just like, this is showing me my strength and my resilience because I don't want to leave. Mm-hmm. Like, I want the help that's being offered to me. So I'll do whatever it takes.
Well, plus you're being triggered like every single day because like you're having to deal with COVID, pandemic, being in a hotel,
a fire.
And the fire, even though you're in a different place, you're still worried about everything that's happening.
And the accessibility to alcohol. Right
totally.
there.
Yeah. And we have no idea if our campus is okay, that like everything's blocked off. And so like everything that I had up there that I brought is that, but it's like, okay, long term, like I'm here to work on my recovery. I'm here to get sober and learn how to stay sober. I don't care if it's in Estes Park. I don't care if it's in Greeley. I don't care if it's on the moon. Like I'm here to save my own life because that's what it's going to take. Because I was at a point where I was so desperate. And while I'd gotten sober a couple of times before that that moment, I never had the gift of desperation, as they call it. I was not willing to do whatever it took.
Yep, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink.
Yeah.
Can you talk to us about how bad it had gotten before? Because when you were here in October, we had no idea.
You had no idea, yeah.
I remember, and I like, we had the podcast next week, and Paul and Andy were like, I was like, oh, how was Veronica? Did she make it home? And I think they were like, she's in rehab. I was like, what the?
Yeah.
Beep.
Yeah. I apologize if I cussed because.
Oh no, this is E. It's E for extra.
Yeah, I mean, so this last time I was struggling hard for a little over a year. It started in 2019, so it was definitely not the pandemic, but that exacerbated it because I had more days I was working at home, and so I could hide my drinking. Oh, yeah. Before everything shut down, I had a girlfriend who was a bartender, and so she was very supportive of the fact that I was drinking. And so it was one of those things that it started spiraling really fast, and things that were never acceptable to me became normal. So I started, sneaking alcohol into work because I couldn't get through the day without taking a sip to take that edge off. It was like, okay, 5 o'clock can't come fast enough, so I'll make it happen at 3 o'clock. And then it'll start happening at noon. And then now that's the first thing I do when I wake up in the morning is I take a swig out of the bottle. And now, because I'm drinking so much for so long, I have to hide the tremors in my hands. And so I have to keep drinking in order for that to go away. And then like the withdrawal symptoms are just so awful. Like they make you so sick. And I mean, I just have never existed in a space where my head was not pounding unless I was drinking. And so it was kind of one of those things that I was able to hide because it was slowly progressing. But it was all day, every day. By the end, I was drinking an entire bottle of vodka a day. And that was normal. I didn't know, there was no line of like, okay, should I or shouldn't I drink? It's just, when can I get the next drink? And you start not caring about anything else or anyone else until you can get that. And then where am I going to get the next one? Because it's like, once I start, I can't stop. And I think like I always knew that I was always a heavy drinker. I always kind of drank more than the people around me. But it wasn't to the point where it was for a prolonged period of time where I thought it was going to be a problem. I could kind of control it. I could manage it. I could plan my day around it. And then when I didn't really have to plan anymore, then I just stopped because it's like, well, nobody's really, I live alone, so nobody's monitoring me. I was even hiding alcohol from myself in my house so that I wouldn't, okay, I would always say, this is the last one. Like, I'm done. And then I'd go out and I'd smoke a cigarette, and then I'd come back and I'm like, okay, this is the last one. And then I'd go out and smoke another cigarette, and then I'd come back and this is the last one. And it would just go like that all night. And then because in the morning when I wake up so sick, then I had to start drinking right away. So that particular part of my disease lasted about 6 months. Wow. Where it was just all day, every day. And, even coming here to have the podcast, I mean, my body was shutting down. My brain was mush. I had no idea if anything that I had said during that interview was articulate, or, I couldn't even remember what we had talked about. Not because I was blackout drunk in that moment, but because I'd just been drinking for so long. And I remember having like one of those spritzers or whatever while I was here. And I was like, oh, it's to calm down the nerves. It's like, no, because my hands wouldn't stop shaking. Like, it's just stuff like that you learn how to cover up. You learn how to hide. And because we were all distanced from each other, nobody in my life really knew how bad it had gotten.
Oh. All right. So you're back at the hotel and you're trying to get, they're trying to help you with that. So what did that look like? Were they able to give you the assistance like that you would have gotten on the campus? Like, or was it pared down? Was it as...
Yeah, it was definitely a struggle up there. They were trying to be mindful of the counselors and everybody, because everybody had been evacuated. So people who lived up there, like they didn't know if they were going to have a home to go back to, So it was really like, it was a balancing act for sure. So I definitely think that some of the things were sacrificed in that experience. But then it also gave me a lot of time to do my own work. Because some people really latched onto the trauma aspect. And I mean, we can even talk about like some of the reasons why I drank. Like I have a lot of experience with trauma. And so I kind of know how to just turn that off. Like I'll feel that later. Like I'll deal with that, but here I have a job to do. So I've got these homework assignments. I'm going to sit down and I'm going to journal. I'm going to talk to the other people who I feel like are taking this seriously. I'm going to be open and honest with my counselor when I get 30 minutes with her and, 3 days from now. And like, I'm here to do the work. And I'm not here to judge anybody else's experience, but there were definitely people who just were not prepared, I think, emotionally or mentally to be there to do the work. So it's, the complaining and it's the infighting, like in the women's group, because there was 9 of us who left, there were 9 of us and that's it. And so all of our programming was done together. And typically you have people leaving and then you have new people coming that kind of switches up the group dynamic. And it was just like it started, people were bickering and people were like taking things and, like not joining group and like all this kind of stuff that just is like, oh my gosh, this is high school all over again. And I'm not getting what I want from the group. So at least I can go do my work on my own. And that process, I think, I learned so much about myself that I didn't even know how to apply it when I got back to the real world, because it's like, well, now I'm going back into my old life, into my old routines, into, the place that I worked with all the same coworkers who drove me crazy, and I'm having to show up to family functions with people who I love but drive me crazy. And, I'm dealing with like friend stuff and whatever. Like I wasn't at a point in my alcoholism where I had lost everything. Like I had maintained a life that I was coming back to, but now I didn't have the one thing that gave me, that
your coping mechanism.
Yeah. And that was all I had. So it's like, okay, now coming back, I don't think it's safe for me to live alone. So I chose to move into a sober living for 3 months because I just wanted that extra accountability, and they do the UA tests every so often and you have chores to do. And I mean, it all felt like, oh, it's so annoying, but it was really pivotal. And I was so glad that I had the foresight to see that that was something that I was going to need. But that was something that they asked me before I left. Like, what is your plan? And do you think that this is a great idea? So it was still like, I learned a lot there. I learned how to rely on myself, I think, a little bit more than I would have if I'd been sheltered the entire time up at Estes Park. I think it would have been more traumatizing coming back had I not had sort of that real world application. But because of the pandemic, by the time we got back up to campus, we were quarantined. So then we weren't allowed to like mingle with the rest of the campus, and we weren't allowed to bring in anybody new. So I was just like, this is not the experience that I want. Like, I don't want to have a group therapy session that solely talks about the dynamic of the group, because now it's gotten so toxic, and because we've only been dealing with each other for the last, week and a half up at a hotel, and, like,
I don't care, Sharon, about your problems anymore.
Exactly. It just, I felt ready to just kind of get back into the world. But yeah, I mean, I had, a great experience for what I could. And I don't know if I would say I'd do anything differently. They say that only 70% of people make it past the first 30 days of sobriety before they relapse. And I was like, I will do whatever it takes to be in that 30% who makes it. So I think that could have happened anywhere.
Wait, 70% fail?
Yeah. 70% of people relapse after treatment in the first 30 days.
Well, don't they say that the road to recovery is built on relapse? Maybe I made that up.
It's definitely, I mean, it's something that we
Maybe
accept.
I say
it. now it's a
me.
saying.
And I am not they, them pronouns.
I mean, it's definitely something that we accept because it's, in any model, it's progress, not perfection. So we don't want to look at relapse as an acceptable thing because you don't know if you're going to make it back.
Oh, 100%.
This illness, it kills people. Like there's a woman that I was up there with who's dead because she drank herself to death.
Yep.
And, how do I make that not me? I don't know. Am I lucky? Is it because I'm willing to do the work? Is it because of, resources, whatever?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not sure. But yeah, I mean, it's not impossible that I would relapse in the future, but I don't know if, you know, I would make it through the next one. So I don't want to risk
day by day,
it.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I know this is like a heavy topic, and we're like, you know, and we're
Put
not
in the egg whites, girl.
I mean, you know, we are trying to laugh and we are trying to make this lighthearted because it's something that we want to make it a little bit easier to digest, I guess, and talk about. And a lot of people use humor to deal with trauma and any issues that might be a little bit more difficult. So I hope anyone out there listening is not taking offense to how we are dealing with this, because this is how we deal with this.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's not taking anything away from your experience or anybody else's experience out there. It's just how we deal with it. And, you know, it's very funny because working in different situations, you know, it can put you in that in a weird spot because, like, you know, alcoholism, they're still deciding on whether or not that's genetic, you know? And so for me, I worried because my dad was an alcoholic. And so working in a kitchen environment, I always worried when people were like, do you want to go out and get a drink after work? I'm like, And like, maybe I'll go out for one. And then it's like, I'd be with people who are, by the time I'm finished with my one drink, they're on their third or fourth.
Well,
and I'm like,
that's because it's like, it's not the industry, but like that's normal. I think what people don't realize is that there are a lot of people out there that have addiction issues, but it's not recognized.
Right.
Does that make sense? Like in the gay community, good Lord. Like, I'm going to leave that there. But even in like the straight community, like it doesn't matter who you are as a human. Like there's things, habits, behaviors, patterns, and everything that it's like interesting.
Well, and that's one thing that we learn, you know, as you're in recovery or in treatment or whatever, is that addiction is the one illness that equally is an offender. And so, you know, it's like, it doesn't matter what your gender, it doesn't matter what your sexuality, doesn't matter your race, your class, like it impacts every community.
Right.
And so, you know, for us to say like, oh, well, queer people have a higher rate. Well, yeah, it's because we have environmental influences. It's because we maybe have traumatic influences. It's because, you know, maybe we were brought into a home that wasn't welcoming and affirming. And so you turn to something.
Maybe it's the bars pour a heavier drink. I'm just saying.
Exactly. Yeah. And so
Fiesta Cantina, 2 for 1 happy hour.
So now going through this new one, because you've been sober for how long now?
9 months.
That's awesome.
It's your sober baby.
Yes, I
you're
know.
about to give birth. Oh,
You
that
don't look
birth
at
canal.
all like you've had a baby.
I had to come to the place that I was impregnated. Because 9 months later, now I'm back on the podcast.
Oh, that's oh my God! Yes,
know.
we
You
impregnated
planted that
you.
seed.
Okay,
And now you plant seeds in pots because you are a plant mama.
Yes, full
full circle, bitch.
And like plants can make circles or something. Roots. Or something.
So what would be
Leaves.
Egg
whites.
like what would be some advice that you would give to people who need to go through this?
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to give advice, right? Because like you were talking about, there has to be a recognition that you want help. So it's almost more of if you know somebody in your life who's struggling, or if you're curious, or if you worry, I would encourage the people who are around that person who is struggling to reach out, to have that conversation, to challenge things, because it can be, you know, very out in the open, and it can be something that's undetectable. But once I told people in my life that, you know, I'm going to get help, I'm getting treatment, they're like, yeah, I kind of felt like something was off. They couldn't quite put a finger on it. They knew that I was like not great, but I was showing up and I was like doing the things that were, you know, I was responsible for, but I just wasn't me. And so, you know, even if it's one of those things, you know, I would definitely like encourage people to just like ask those hard questions, because it can be an infringement on somebody's privacy, but if it's out of concern and that person maybe is on the cusp of wanting help, then that might be what motivates them. I know for me, so the very last night of my drinking, I was planning to commit suicide. I was completely hopeless. I thought that there was no No reason to continue going on. I thought everyone would be better off without me. I knew I was a worthless piece of shit. Like that was the only thing that I knew was true. Because I had over and over and over again told myself, like, I'm not going to drink today. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. And I would fail every single day. And so finally, it was just one of those nights where I had a commitment the next day. And because I was so messed up, I knew I wasn't going to be able to fulfill that commitment. And I was like, here I go again. I'm just a disappointment. And you know what? I don't want to continue disappointing people. I don't want to continue being in this place where I feel like I'm not contributing anything to society, that I'm just a burden. And so, I took an inventory of what was in the house, and that was my plan. And I had reached out to my brother and to my mom because they were the ones I was planning on seeing the next day. I was going to go visit my family. And I just sent them a text and I said, I love you. I'm sorry. And they were like, what is going on? Like, what do you mean? Like, what are you sorry for? And my brother called me because he's never gotten a message like that from me before. And I was just a weeping disaster of a human. And, I was going and reaching for the pills in the medicine cabinet. And he's like, I'm coming down there right now. Like, it's an hour drive and I'll be there in an hour and 5 minutes. And he got in his car and I was like, no, I'm fine. Like, no, I'm not going to do anything. I'm trying to tell, it was, it was stupid. I'm not going to, whatever. And he's like, I don't care. Like, I'm coming. And I think in that moment, I knew that even if I didn't believe in myself, that I had other people that did. And so finally that gave me the permission to ask for the help that I needed. And so it's less about, because everyone's bottom is different and everyone goes through a different experience.
I know, I'm sorry. I'm a 12-year-old boy. As soon as she said every bottom is everybody's bottom is different, I'm like, oh God.
I mean,
why'd you have to say it like that?
I mean, we're in Hillcrest, so everyone's bottom is different.
It's true.
So go ahead.
Everyone's top's different
Oh,
too.
people are gonna hate me.
No, we are egg whites.
Yes. Well, and this is the permission that
Levity.
I need to laugh. No, but I think everyone hits a different part in their journey where they're ready to get help. And so I can't encourage somebody to get help that doesn't want it. But I can say there's 1,000 different ways. So I had the $6,000 to be able to go to treatment, and I also had insurance. And I know both of those things are privileges. It's because I have a job. It's because, I had a home to come back to. That's such a privilege. I had a supportive family. That's such a privilege. So not everybody is in that situation, but there are so many resources out there that I would just encourage people to either reach out to somebody that they know that's maybe in recovery, or to, pick up the phone and, you can even call 911 on yourself. If you're in that point where you just feel like tomorrow doesn't feel like it's reachable or something that you want to see, AA, it's free. You can show up to any meeting. There's thousands of meetings every hour, and especially now with Zoom, it's so accessible. But I know for a long time, I knew that was there, and I wasn't going to meetings because I wasn't ready to quit drinking. So, yeah, I mean, I guess it's hard to give advice because I only know my experience and my journey, but there's so many people out there who are willing and wanting to give the help if you ask for it.
What surprised you about people, good or bad, when you just all of this started happening and you decided to go to rehab and take control of this illness?
Yeah, it was definitely twofold. There was always shock. There was always an element of shock of oh my gosh, I had no idea. What are you talking about? You need to go to rehab for what? And then there was well, what do you need? How can we support you? So, at work, I needed to take a leave of absence, and they're like, okay, tell us when you'll be back. I was like, well, it's a 30-day program. And they're like, so do you need 60 days? Do you need 90 days? How many days do you need in order to feel or do you want to check in? Yeah, exactly.
Because most people don't have an employer that is that but again, your employer is someone who caters to the gay community, so they understand what this is
exactly.
about.
It's like I work in an LGBTQ publication, and so we know that mental health issues are prevalent, and we know that substance abuse issues are prevalent. And so this is just kind of a part of the culture that we've instilled in this company, because it's like, these are our people,
Right.
you know, so how do we support our people? You know, and so like that was wonderful and relieving. And also I'm like, no, I will be here on 31 days because like I need something to do.
Oh my God.
You know, and then it was like my brother who came down to make sure that I didn't harm myself that night. He did not leave my side until I was checking in to rehab 3 days later. And so like without that, like not even coercion, not guidance, there wasn't an intervention. It was like without that support, I could have easily changed my mind. And so I'm sorry, I forgot the question.
He was so cute too. We had a Zoom call with Veronica, and Randy was there, and he was like, "Hey!"
Yeah. They know my brother just from me being around, but yeah. So I forgot what the original. The support.
Yeah.
And so it's like, you know, him putting his life on hold, coming to be with. He's got 2 kids and a wife,
God, yeah.
and so you know, and my sister-in-law was wonderful because she has, you know, family members who have kind of gone through a similar thing, and she's like, "Go be with your sister. Like, we'll be fine." And so he could do that. You know, my parents, you know, and
her parents.
yeah,
They're
my
so
parents
cute.
are amazing. And
So cute.
my dad,
Her dad is a DILF.
Oh,
Just so
You
y'all
think so?
know,
No.
her dad is a DILF.
oh God, absolutely not.
we're gonna. I think we need to pull the picture. That's the title.
Randy got some arms on him.
He does, yeah, he does. I think my dad struggled the most with it because both of his parents were alcoholics.
Really?
And so he never touched alcohol his entire life because he didn't want to end up like that. He didn't want to live a life like that. I could see the disgust that he had for his parents because of the environment that he grew up in. And I didn't want to be another that to him. So I think, you know, that relationship has been challenging to navigate. He's so proud of me now. But I can also just like imagine the devastation if I were to ever pick up again. But my mom, honestly, like that relationship, you know, we've been through a lot as like a, you know, mother and daughter. But the amount of just unconditional love from her, that, you know, it's like it fills me up with like a belief in myself that like I don't know if I could ever get from anywhere else. But the thing that makes me, I think, still emotional is she told me a story about how she and my dad were walking down 16th Street Mall, which is, you know, like an outside shopping mall in Denver. And there's just a lot of individuals experiencing homelessness. And, you know, you have a lot of mental health issues. You have a lot of substance abuse issues that happen in the homeless community. And they were walking down there one night and my mom just started crying. And she told my dad that she was worried that I would end up there. That she's like, it just breaks my heart because I know she's struggling and I don't even know how much she's struggling. But like, I couldn't imagine her being, you know, one of these people.
Was this before rehab?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so like hearing even stuff like that where it's like, you know, I didn't understand how much people knew. And so when I reached out, the people who knew that I was struggling, the amount of support was just like, oh my gosh, yes, we've been waiting for this. And then the people who had no idea were like, wow. And yes, how can we support you? So I was very, very lucky.
And like you said, that in itself is a privilege because a lot of people don't have that kind of support structure in their lives, you know? So, and I'm sure it's like for your dad, just like me, you know, because my father was an alcoholic, it was like, okay, I don't want to end up like that. So I do a mental, even though I, you know, drink, I have like 1 or 2 drinks and that's it. And I know that that's my limit, you know? So I'm like, but like, okay, y'all saw the picture, right? Like he's a total DILF, right?
Oh yeah, Randy's cute.
Randy can get it. Okay.
Oh my God.
Her brother's cute too.
Wait, pull up a picture of it.
I'm just saying.
I mean, Veronica's
gorgeous.
So like,
her
that
mom
makes
is
sense.
cute. The whole family has
Yeah,
got, you know, good genes.
Got a
Who's that?
I know.
Oh, my dad.
They're
I
so
wanna see the
cute. I love
brother.
them. All right. So, where are you at now? Like, because, like,
She's in San Diego.
I'm in
she's
San
sitting
Diego,
in the
California.
studio.
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
here
in
for
the-
another
the-
24 hours. I'm so
studio.
excited.
But, like, I mean, how are you dealing with it, and how do you want people to deal with you in
I'm a lot to
respect
deal
to
with.
this? I know, right?
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
a lot to deal
Ask
with.
any of my exes. Even. Yeah.
E
But,
for
like,
extra.
But how do you want people to deal with you
Yeah.
in this and in respect to your disease? Because, like, we went and had brunch, and I'm going to treat you like I've always treated you. Like, I'm not going to treat you any differently, but I'm also, like, not going to put you in a situation where, oh, we're going to go to Moe's where everybody's drinking. Like,
Right.
I'm not going to do that, but I'm
Yeah.
still going to have a drink in front of you. And because, you know, that's how I've always done being around you.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, over the 10 years that we've known each other, I've been in and out of sobriety.
Right.
And so that was always something that I requested of people I was close to is like, please don't change for me. I'll let you know what I need. So until it gets to a point where I feel uncomfortable, like I probably won't put myself in a situation where I'm just going to a bar without, you know, like there being a meal involved or, you know, for a specific reason. Like I'm just not going to put myself there. And so I would appreciate the invitation, but like also don't be offended if I say no. But I also want the chance to advocate for myself. I don't want people to assume. So like you're saying, you know, like if I was sitting at brunch and I requested that everyone don't drink because I'm there, well, maybe then I shouldn't be there. You know, like I need to evaluate like what my intention and my purpose is in entering a space. And, you know, if it's not a safe place for me, then like that's my responsibility. But I think in terms of, you know, how I want people to work with me, I mean, it's been like a hard 9 months. I quit drinking. And with that came a lot. So I realized that I had some undiagnosed mental health issues going on. So 3 months into sobriety, I was diagnosed as bipolar 2, which is like, you know, a lot. Like there's a lot of like moodiness going on. There's a lot of like ups and downs with trying new medications. There's a lot of trauma that like is boiling to the surface that like I never dealt with because I was numbing myself out. And so, you know, I'm easily triggered. You know, especially getting close to people and being intimate, like that is a huge struggle because, you know, for a long time I had to be drunk in order to have sex. And so then it's like, what do I do with my girlfriend? You know, because it's like, well, now when we're intimate, then, you know, I know, lesbians, ew.
Scissors. That's all I know.
Scissor.
And I'd love to meet a lesbian who actually scissors because that shit is not easy, okay? Nor is it.
That seems like a lot of work.
I feel
too.
like you would pull
Yeah.
your groin.
I feel
yeah.
like that's a lot of core work.
I pull
Its core and other muscles.
I mean, it's not like push-ups.
But also like how, you know, it's geometry. Angles. I mean, it could work.
It could work, yeah. I mean, it came from somewhere, so the reference, yeah.
Just because a term exists means it's legit.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
So you know, you're saying.
Oh, yeah, but I mean, you know, so just in terms of like understanding how I navigate the world, like that's completely changing. And so like I just need permission to change. You know, I think that like when we're talking about the stigmatization of it and we're talking about like acceptability of, you know, saying like I'm a queer person, well, I also have to say that like it has to be acceptable that I'm an alcoholic in recovery.
So like, do you feel like you have to come out again?
Oh, absolutely.
Like this is another form of coming out.
Yeah.
Because not only do you tell people that you're queer and lesbian, but like now you have this other thing that you don't want to hide from someone, but needs to be said.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And it's like, it's kind of one of those situations. So I'm also, you know, a very straight passing person in the community. And so like, sometimes that's just a part of the conversation I don't want to talk about, you know, that it's like, it's extra work. Right. So it's like, it doesn't matter what my sexuality is if like, that's not something that you and I need to discuss. So like, okay, put that aside. So same thing with like my addiction, that it's like I'm open about it. And, I like to talk about my recovery, and I actually write a lot about it for Outfront magazine and then also for Treatment magazine, because it's good for me to be able to tell my story, not only for other people, but to remind myself of how bad it got.
A lot of people, when you're dealing with illness in general, whether it's, alcoholism or like with Andy's prostate cancer, it's like, I feel like, you're still coming out with that too. And it's like having to tell people. So it's like, you always worry about what their reaction is going to be. So I'm going to pivot for a second because like you are also on a podcast. You co-host a podcast. Now, have you talked about this on your podcast for Outfront magazine?
Yeah. So that was something actually after recording here, I was like, that was really fun. I think I want to try, co-hosting something. So I don't talk a lot about it, mostly just because that's not the topic at hand.
Okay.
But we did have the mental health issue that we dove a lot into that topic. And so for the month of May, because it's Mental Health Awareness Month, that was kind of like what we centered on. And so my co-host and we just shared a lot about our journey through mental health. And then also I shared about my substance abuse issues. And, it's kind of one of those things that in the beginning, I didn't really want to be so forthcoming. The people in my life who knew. But then I also felt like I was really missing this opportunity to connect with people and to share part of my story and to stand in my authenticity and be vulnerable, because that's really what I felt like I was lacking before was, I was so like hiding who I was, that I don't want to do that anymore. It's like it's all or nothing. And, if you're not going to support me in this journey, then like you don't need to be in my life. Mm-hmm. So everybody gets a chance to know. And yeah, it's like coming out all over again. But yeah, like I want to have the conversation now.
If you can't handle me at my chicken burrito, you can't handle me at with the extra guac. Okay.
that old saying.
My face was like, what? Is that a thing?
It's like a Chipotle thing. You know how guac is extra?
Yeah.
Okay, forget it. We can edit that out later. So, like, what is your podcast? What is your podcast?
Karma, bitch!
What is the podcast that you do called?
It's called the OFM podcast.
Oh, we'll see.
Yeah.
We're cross-pollinating here.
Yeah.
We
We're crossbreeding.
Oh. Scissors.
So we just want to wrap up, and is there anything else that you'd like to say to people out there?
Any resources that people can reach out to if they feel like they're struggling?
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, so there's, I like I said, I'm a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. And so there's always meetings everywhere. You can Google AA, and then, there's just like so many, but there's so many 12-step programs. So whether it's, cocaine addiction, it's methamphetamine, it's a cross-pollination of multiple kinds of addictions. That's always an incredible resource to find people who are struggling like you, who have been through what you've been through and can help you come out on the other side. And then also Outfront, or OFM, the magazine that I work for, we do a lot of work with Envision You, which is a Colorado initiative that's helping bridge the gap between clinicians and the LGBTQ community when it comes to mental health and substance abuse issues. So they go and basically train clinicians on how to properly serve our community. So whether it's improving language, whether it's improving, affirming practices, whether it's just creating some extra education and guidance on what it's like, to go through substance abuse or mental health conditions, and not have to be the person as a queer person having to educate your provider, that they're coming in with knowledge on how unique our community is. And so they have just a ton of resources because they've, worked with so many different organizations and places that provide those services. So Envision You, that's another incredible place that I would recommend. And then Treatment magazine, that's more like on the other end of things. If you're curious about addiction or like want to read stories about, what these kinds of topics are that we talk about, then that's another place that I would recommend, Treatment magazine.
I also want to say, this is not related, but like when your face is behind the microphone, it looks like you have on an eye patch.
Oh, really? Yeah. That's so cool.
But I've been thinking this the whole time you've been talking, and I was like, she's like a pirate, and it's super cool.
Are you having a good time?
Oh, she walked the plank.
Whatever would bring like a cool factor. I don't know. I feel like, like an eye patch kind of brings a cool factor.
You don't need anything extra.
I don't need an eye patch.
So I really want to thank you because like you're a friend, you're like family, and I thank you for coming on and talking about this and being so brave and being so open and honest about your journey and where you're at and where you're going and where you've been and all that. That's amazing to me. So thank you for being here and doing this. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for asking. I love you too. I just, I know that this is not a topic that necessarily translates well, and so having these conversations, being able to talk about the nuance and, the struggle and the beginning and the end and the journey, podcasting is just such an incredible format, I think, in doing that. And so I thank you for using your platform to have these conversations.
Well, even if only one person takes away something, then that's a win in my book.
Yeah. I mean, if you are out there and you're dealing with, know somebody who may be dealing with some form of addiction, please do some homework or just try to get them help. If you don't have the privilege of being able to do the homework, try to get them help as much as you can, or try to get yourself help. That's the biggest thing that we want, is for you to still be here because you are a beautiful being and you deserve to be here, and people deserve to get to know you and get to love you, and you get to love yourself. So, do you have anything else, Joe?
I do not. That was like a really, use it. Same.
Hashtag same. All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and we will talk to you next time. Bye.
Special thanks to Andrew Smith and Nick Stone for producing the show. If you like us, please follow us at tugayspod on Instagram and visit us online at tugayspod.com. You can find us anywhere you can stream podcasts. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and let us know topics you'd like to hear. And always remember, stay safe, stay classy, stay sassy, and always stay a little bit trashy. See you next week.